In the dark, I plant my dreams. Permaculture flows like sweet streams. I'm the daddy with the know-how seed. Creating the world like it's meant to be. Permaculture, P-I-M-P, I'm the king. Wrapping love in everything. Bringing change, making it last. Join the permaculture.
Welcome to episode 388 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. The only Pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, practical living, and sometimes even prostitutes.
Permaculture, P-I-M-P, with soulful grace. In the P-I-Pimpcast, where we find our place. Feed by the earth.
Oh yeah, good to be here with y'all. Folks, things are just a little bit crazy around here. If you wonder why I'm looking around all over this studio, I got this little renegade cat, Michelle's cat, besides walks in here, looks up at me like you ain't, looks at me like, what's going on? And I'm like, okay, cat, get out of here. And, she's out doing her own thing.
That's
anyway,
exactly how that cat looks at people too. Like, what are you doing in my space?
Yeah, like, you want to pet me? You better come over here because I ain't going over there. Anyway, man, this episode, as always, brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from twooldcrowshomestead.com.
Turn that simp into a pimp.
Bam! EMF rocks. Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time worrying about, you got the ones we mailed to you?
Yeah, they came in right before the show. Yeah, thank you. These are awesome.
Yeah, we got more of them, folks. I don't buy stuff that ain't going to work. I definitely ain't going to buy more of it if it don't work. Oh, so now you show up. I guess you hear, yeah, where's your cat?
Hey, Mom.
Yeah, she can't possibly hear you, but she's in here searching around for this cat right now. Michelle, come wave to everybody. Or not. She's tripping over cords in here, so I don't know what's going on. Anyway, that little cat, she rolled up in here and, said, sayonara, I guess. So, what's up with the cat? Anyway, EMF rocks 10% off with promo code PERMA. So, yeah, folks, I'm a little bit out of breath. Sorry for starting the show a little bit late. I was interviewing Anna Kate from Survivor, and that should be on, it's probably suitable for YouTube, but I put it on Patreon, not Patreon, but on Rumble. I can never remember that. I put it on Rumble because I didn't know what we might get into. So, and then these days with the way YouTube is being, in fact, all platforms are being, boy, wasn't this supposed to improve under Trump? I thought that was supposed to be one of the things that improve under there, but no, these platforms are worse than ever. And the skies are worse than ever. There's a whole lot of things that are worse than ever, but man, we are what? Rah, 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 USA, right? Yeah, that's what I'm supposed to say. Anyway, here we are. I'll just jump right into the farm news. So I did a front porch talk yesterday from, it was about Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy, as FDR put it. And I did the most benign version of what I could have talked about. I didn't even get into the smoking gun evidence that shows pretty much beyond all doubt that, Pearl Harbor was not an inside job, but we allowed it to happen. Things I didn't even cover in that video, things like, everything was out to sea. Oh, and by the way, y'all, I'm totally slipping here. I want to thank everybody in the chat right now. If you would hit that thumbs up, tell everybody we're live. So these platforms can go ahead and start suppressing us because they can't have this information out there to everybody. Anyway, I was talking about the Pearl Harbor, and I knew that when I did it, I should have put a caveat in there that there will always be this certain demographic every single time that will only hear, even though I said, look, it's not everybody in the baby boomer generation. There's people on there that'll say, you're so wrong about the baby. I'm like, did you not watch the video? It is amazing to me that it can be right there stamped in the video, exactly what I said. And there are certain ones, and one of them just happened to be named Karen. They will hear what they want, despite a couple of times, I think, in the video, I made it very clear that some of the biggest movers and shakers are from that generation. I mean, in a massive way. I'm just saying, by and large, the greatest generation, the World War II generation, they produced the baby boomers. And those baby boomers, by and large, 95% of the ones I ever come in contact with are absolutely so far down at the bottom of Plato's cave, it'll make your head spin. And it's just astonishing to me that there is a certain demographic, and it's always the same type of person that didn't hear a word you just said and just is determined to be offended and can't hear anything else. You ever come across that?
Oh yeah. Well, most notably, just recently, the comment section of that Danny Jones interview that you were talking about last week with the Bart Sabrell, and then that was it Charles Duke or something like that?
Yeah.
Side note, I know who I'm fighting. That Danny Jones guy, that Timu Uriah Faber. That's who I'm fighting. For that whole charity event with Justin Rose and stuff like that. We'll have to reach out to him and see if he'll fight, because that dude, that was the most annoying, like number one most annoying debate I've ever watched was that one right there. The second most annoying one was the debate between the vegan and the guy who wasn't a vegan over on Joe Rogan. Two most annoying debates in the world. That, oh man. But yeah, if you look at the comment section of that debate, everybody is like, you can tell just a bunch of boomers got into the chat. Like, can't you see he just said he went to the moon? Like, that was their rebuttal. That was it was the same rebuttal that the old man had every single time. It's like, I don't even understand this argument. It was the same thing that the guy was saying, Charles Duke was saying in the interview, is the same exact thing that the comment section was saying down below.
Yeah, Raul from the Permaculture podcast, he was texting me. Actually, he sent an audio message, and I was going at 100 miles an hour that day. So I got around to listening to it, man. He was just aggravated too, man. He was like, you could tell. He's like, dude, he's one of those guys. He was at the gym when he sent the audio message, and he's like, dude, he's just one of these guys I would love. I mean, you just can't stand him.
Danny Jones?
Yeah, him. Yeah. But also, it's you could tell that he was kind of rigging the debate. You give this guy 45 minutes right out of the gates, let him kind of set the tone for the thing. But to the credit of Bart Sabrell, man, he totally dismantled this guy.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
This was a first-class USDA choice butt weapon when it comes to a debate. And he didn't even drop all of the information out there. I mean, this was the biggest butt kicking I've ever heard in my life in a debate. And believe me, folks, I've listened and have taken part in a number of debates out there, and I've never seen a more one-sided butt whipping. But yeah, like you said, it was the boomers. And look, I'm not being critical of the boomers in this podcast. I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying, in my experience, 90 to 95% of the boomers out there can be given, and I got examples of this one, can be given the worst prognosis imaginable, and will say, I'll just go ahead and die. Instead of saying, hey, is there a way to cure this? Or I've just never seen, Scipio Eruditus told me once, and I think he's right. He says, man, I wonder if most of that generation isn't under some kind of curse, because I don't even understand how you could just acquiesce to some of this information. And then you get a lot of boomers in there saying, well, you're wrong. But then, on the same token, there were a number of them saying, yeah, my generation is pretty messed up. John B. Wells, who's part of that generation, really awesome radio broadcaster, said the very same thing. Folks, my intent was not to dog boomers. It really wasn't, because my generation in its own way is just as bad. I'm just saying, when it comes to being given new information, when all your life you've been told a certain thing, and William will probably vouch for this. I said it in the video that my biggest fear as I age is that I get to be one of these people who, no matter how much evidence is presented to me, that I'm just going to be content to believe what I've always believed. I hope and pray that I never become that person. And so once again, it wasn't being critical of all boomers out there, just some of them.
Hey, real quick, Brewsome says William versus Austin, Justin Rhodes editor. What was irritating about that Homestead Jamboree that you guys put on? He was out there doing some of the filming. I liked the guy. As much as I didn't want to like Justin Rhodes as editor, I liked him. He was cool. Him and his wife were cool.
I didn't really have much to say to him. I mean, I was so running around like a chicken with my head cut off, so I didn't know one way or the other. I mean, I had a little bit of I had a little bit of an interaction with him, but by and large, man, from dawn till dusk every day, man, I was busting my butt, out there running at 100 miles an hour. Felt to a certain extent like I shortchanged some people because it was constantly trying to put out fires. We're over here doing our thing and then helping Mike do his thing, doing things that we didn't expect. So yeah, I never really had much of an interaction with the guy, but he seemed okay for what little I did interact with him. Hey, want to give a shout out here. Check this one out, son. Jackson Newton. Yeah, perk your ears up, bro. He wrote this book, Compost Your Way. Here, check this out.
Compost Your Way to Freedom.
And
wow.
He mailed this to me and sent a really awesome card, man. I needed a magnifying glass. I can tell it's got to be a young guy, man, because nobody over the age of 50 could read writing that small. So it took a while. Oh, man, he even wrote on the back. I didn't know there was a PS on the back. I'll have to bring out the magnifying glass and check it out. But honestly, man, he just, it was very, very heartfelt. He'd taken some of the work we've done, some of the work of other people out there. And he wrote this acknowledgement in the beginning of the book. Son, you might recognize some of the names there. So Jack Spirko is at the top of the list. And then right below it is me, your mom, and William. And he has a number of others in here that are, so he put together a compost book, which I'm going to get it up here on the screen so y'all can see it. Okay.
Where can people get it?
Yeah. I'm guessing you can probably get it on Amazon or, I'm sure it's got to be out there somewhere. Maybe it's on Amazon, but I just looked at it today and I was like, man, I can't wait to get into this, man. I love the fact that it's, it's very simple, to the point, awesome diagrams inside of it. I thought, man, this is very well done. I haven't gotten into it, into the content of it. But judging by who his inspiration was, where it's Jack, us, Johnson, Sue, and a number of others, Elaine Ingham, I'm really, he wrote and said, sometimes when you do a program like this or when you do videos, you don't necessarily know who you might inspire out there and who may take whatever it is you had and bring it to another place. And this is one of those examples. So Jackson, you made my day, bro, sending me this. I can't wait to get into it.
I found it on Amazon. It's $12, y'all. That's wild. It's $12 on Amazon. If you just type in "Compost Your Way to Freedom," it'll be the first thing that pops up.
Jackson Newton. So he's telling me in this letter that he's about to get married to his high school sweetheart. I think he said in 10th grade, and just sounds like a guy that's really off to do some wonderful things. So, man, thank you so much for that. It was really, really humbling. When you see what you inspire out there. So it was a real joy. So thank you very much. I can't wait to get into it. So other things going on around here. We finally got some good rain. Maybe I can make some more bone sauce. I know everybody's asking about it. So, here's another thing, man, with all of this crazy weather, if you looked at Dane Wigington's latest site over Southern California is where he kind of focused it right now. That's where Eric is at. And I texted Eric and I said, hey, man, are you getting hit with this radiation cloud, this constant fog that's over there? And he's like, dude, I haven't seen the sun in 2 weeks. And then I told your mom, I said, you know what? We used to live in Colorado Springs back when that's where you were born. And we used to go down to Pueblo from time to time to go to the lake down there. Now, Pueblo's claim to fame in Colorado is that they brag about the fact that they get 300 days of sunlight a year. Well, something told me go to ChatGPT and find out how much sunlight Pueblo's getting these days. Well, it was like 250 some. So they dropped off 50 some days because that's how bad the trails are right now. This is ridiculous, folks. I mean, this is on another level. You got sunny California, ain't so sunny right now. If you haven't seen it, y'all go to geoengineeringwatch.org and watch, that latest clip that Dane put out of these fog. In fact, there's a friend of mine just sent me, I almost sent him this thing about the fog. He lives about an hour and a half away from me south from where I'm sitting right now. And if I said his name, y'all know who it is, but I didn't ask for permission. But anyway, he sent me this video of him out there, and this is fog that produced ice. It was the craziest thing, man. I mean, this fog is producing ice.
Especially where he lives.
Yeah.
That is odd, especially if you're not getting ice, but he is. That's odd. Like, we had that same fog yesterday, Dad. but it smelled like sulfur, and they had it over in like near Nashville, not Nashville, but near Nashville. One of my buddies lives out there, and he was saying the fog out here smelled like sulfur yesterday. Yesterday, beginning of the day, I had dense fog everywhere. I was out there doing my ruck, and it just smelled like sulfur. That was the closest, not quite sulfur, but that was the closest thing I could compare it to. And then my buddy let me know that his fog smelled like burning tires, like burnt tires.
Yeah, we had that same burning tire smell. And I mentioned it, I think, in one of my videos out there, one of my front porch talks where, it was burning tires. And then there was another time, strangely enough, everybody around here was smelling like laundry detergent. I asked Ben and Denise over at Renewed Homestead, and I was like, they said they were smelling. They said they thought it was coming from the neighbors. And I said, and I hadn't smelled it, but everybody else I knew did. And then sure enough, on the way home, I'm going up over the mountain, and all of a sudden that smells like Tide or Cheer or one of them. It's like, man, what is going on here? But yeah, he sent me this video, freezing fog. I don't even know what to say, but man, I don't know about everybody else, but man, this stuff is getting out of control. And look, I'm apolitical. I'm a political atheist. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. They are all filth in my book. But I will say the worst time in history of my life, in my 55 years on this planet, the worst it's ever been is since Trump's second term. And there's some places that, I mean, like certain places in Michigan, there's this one lady I follow on X. I think she said 60 days, or maybe it's more, 60 some days so far, and not a single ray of sunshine coming through. Not a single day of sunshine coming through. And you still can't get people to wake up to this. So, history is not long entrusted to the weak and the, timid, as Eisenhower put it. Yeah, that's exactly the case. So what's going on your end, son?
Today's day 8 of the 75 hard for me. And now I got to tell you, this Wave Watch thing is really helping me recover. Especially when it comes to like back and legs. Like you can do muscle recovery on here. You can also do in the pain section. If you have the new one, it's in the pain section. You can do like back pain and stuff. There was one day where my back was like very, very sore, and then I put it on the back relief part, and then it completely, like later on that day, I was completely like free of any kind of pain or soreness in my back. Day 8 of 75 hard. Today it was actually sunny. We actually had some full sun today. I mean, as full sun as you can get with that slight haze up in the atmosphere. So was it yesterday and the day before, everybody was kind of feeling just sort of crummy, especially yesterday, just with that persistent like overcast and not seeing the sun forever. And then today, all of us spent just a ton of time outside. Got some good sun in, got some good grounding in, and everybody feels perfectly fine now. It's amazing how much better you feel just being out in the sun after not having seen it for a while. I mean, it even got me like, I was even like when I was at the gym, I was looking, they have a tanning bed at the gym, and I'm like, man, I might even try this thing out just to get some sort of like heat or light with heat at the same time, just to see if this helps at all. But I don't know how much help a tanning bed would actually have, but it was getting kind of rough there for a minute.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you can get some UV off of a tanning bed. My suspicion is that you can, so maybe that might be a good consideration. I'd check that one out. Freezing fog here in Oklahoma as well, Aspen Glow says. So I mean, this is crazy stuff going on, folks. So anything else going on?
Leaving later this week to go to Kansas to process some sheep and goats to put in the freezer. Grumpy Acres, everybody know, or if you don't know, Grumpy Acres, they live up in Kansas, and he tried to sell some sheep and goats earlier this year, and nobody really wanted them. So he's selling them for a good price. And I asked him, like, hey, do you mind that I'm not, keeping these as livestock? Do you mind if I just process them? And he said, yeah. So we're going to process and fill up some freezer full of meat, and then hopefully get some deer in the freezer at the same time.
You going hunting while you're up there?
No, back in Texas. I'll be hunting it back in Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, not exactly, monster deer there, but hey, meat in the freezer is meat in the freezer. All right, y'all, Sovereign Health Summit, that's going to be coming up October 27th through the 31st. 5% discount with TPC. Redemption Shield, 10% off with promo code PERMA. And then finally, Richardson Nutrition Center, 10% off with promo code PERMA. Look, I can't even, folks, this platform has gotten so crazy, I can't even tell you what they sell without fear of them cutting the feed. I kid you not. But it does help in an enormous way for a condition that people are getting the turbo of, you fill in the blank, the turbo version of these days. And it's just crazy. All right, so I want to get into this story right now. This is the good news section here of the podcast. After 34 years of coercion, CDC finally ends hepatitis B vaccine mandate for newborns nationwide. It's always drove me crazy. Now I suspect, I guess we can call that good news, but it's sickening that it ever even happened in the first place. How would a newborn need? And first of all, I got to be careful about how I say this because once again, we are in this platform. But anyway, how would a newborn be getting mixed up with Hep B anyway?
And I remember when we were having June, like my wife was explaining all of that to me because a lot of this stuff I just wasn't aware of, like what they try to push on you whenever you're having a baby and all that type of stuff. I just wasn't aware of it, but she was a NICU nurse. So she was like fully aware of what they try to push on you and explaining like the Hep B. And it's not like they don't test the mom beforehand, like before giving birth to see if she has anything. So it's like, it just didn't make sense. It does not make sense at all. Also, the schedule is insane. Like the schedule of I'm being cautious here, but the schedule of the injections isn't even what the manufacturer recommends. It's like way too many, way too quick. I don't think any of them are a good route to go. But if you are, trying to go that route, definitely don't follow the schedule that the hospital, who's trying to work as efficiently as possible, not as like best for your health as possible, but as efficiently as possible. Don't go with their schedule for sure.
Well, they're certainly running as profitable as possible. That's exactly what they're looking for. All right. So the second one here, former Obama. Okay, this is definitely good news, but of course, I'm going to throw a caveat in there. Former Obama-era DEA deputy chief arrested for allegedly laundering millions for Mexican cartel. Folks, I'm going to say that's good news, but that's probably the only arrest you're going to see from this Trump organization. Folks, it's all one seamless group. These people are all working together. Democrats, Republicans, there ain't no difference. They're just selling you another lie. Anyway, you want to stop the drugs right now? Get rid of the CIA. Go look at Gary Webb's work and why they murdered him. Yes, they did murder him. He worked for the San Jose Mercury, and he dropped, back in the 80s, y'all, he basically proved beyond all doubt that the CIA brings in all of the crack cocaine that was coming into the black neighborhoods at that time. You want to get rid of drugs? Get rid of the CIA. You don't blow up boats in the middle of saying they're coming up. And by the way, these boats don't have enough whatever on board to make it all the way to the U.S. anyway. So the whole story about that whole thing is just absolutely insane. It's stupid on every level. That boat, I was looking at the carrying capacity, that boat would have to fill up, I think, like, what did they say? Like 10 to 15 times before it made it to the U.S. So explain that one.
Also, is it coincidental that this country that we're now trying to start a war with has like the world's largest oil reserves?
How about that? And it's basically it's got so many doggone deposits of gold, silver, all these other things over there. Yeah, there's a whole lot going on right now. And of course, everybody wants to talk. Back to this story. You want to stop drug trafficking? Look at Air America. Look at what happened during Vietnam. Look at all the bodies. This is cold-blooded. All the dead people coming back, 58,000 dead in Vietnam, and nearly all those caskets coming back had drugs in them in the bottom of the caskets because they knew they can get it back. Who's responsible for all that? The CIA. Yeah, never heard this stuff? You thought they were a wonderful organization? Folks, if you think so, I got news for you. But anyway, that's about the only politician, or rather in his case, a bureaucrat that's probably going to go to jail. And then who knows, he'll probably get pardoned here after a while. And then finally, Journal retracts landmark Roundup safety study over the evidence that the company gross wrote findings. Now, check this out. Yeah, Monsanto basically came out with this study that they authored claiming glyphosate is just perfectly fine. You know what? Part of your essential vitamins and minerals out there. Yeah, how about that? And this should be earth-shattering news. Well, then again, I'm not one bit surprised because I remember when that big lawsuit came out and it proved that this stuff is causing the big C out there. The same people, I told them about this, and they're like, it's just on the weeds in the yard. But I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean, and of course, they were boomers. How about that? Yep. Yeah. You're going to sit here and use a known carcinogen. This stuff is downright poison. You find out that it's poison, and you're like, it's all good. We're just going to keep driving on. But anyway, yeah, if you go into this article, comes to find out that this safety study was done by them, and not one prostitute media outlet, not that Fair and Balanced Fox or Fix News, as I call them, not CNN, not MSNBC, not any of them. Nobody's going to touch this. But that's good news. I'm going to call that good news on my end. But by and large, I mean, folks, most people, I don't even know what it takes to wake them up these days. I really don't. You got anything to say about that one, son?
It doesn't shock me. I mean, they said Teflon was safe. I mean, they've said all these other chemicals are safe just to later on have like class action, lawsuits against them. And I mean, what I have to say actually ties into the topic of the day, the 10 biggest lies in permaculture. So I'll hold off on that. I'll bring that up at the beginning just so it's closer.
Well, it was the same thing with aspartame, and it's still on the market right now. But, who was behind that? Go back to, who was the Secretary of Defense during 9/11? Anybody know who that is? Well, what if I told you that was the same guy that was able to get aspartame through, even though for years they were trying to get aspartame through? They were trying like nobody's business to get it through and could not do it because they knew it was making holes in the brains of all the mice. How about that? Well, lo and behold, he got it through. Rumsfeld, him and Cheney. Wonder where they are right now. Yeah, well, not wishing the worst for them. I hope they repented, but short of that, things are not looking wonderful for those guys. All right, with that, we're going to go to my man, Eric Sider.
Hey, Eric Sider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip, gender roles in society. Though the tradwife trend was mostly cosplay for clicks, it brings up an interesting debate about gender roles in society. Bill Mollison said there should be specific jobs in society for men and women because it creates an interdependency. We need each other by design. Most Western-thinking people would dismiss this notion out of hand, but Western society has plenty of problems. Men are expected to be the husband and the wife, and women just seem to be upset and dissatisfied no matter what is happening. There are no rites of passage anymore. Young people don't know how to transition to adulthood. Biology is real, and males and females are ideally suited to different roles and responsibilities. In nature, males are largely sacrificial, so it's no wonder young men don't see a role in society for themselves. The more disconnected we are from nature and providing our basic needs, the more bizarre realities we create for ourselves. I think everyone should have the freedom to live whatever life they choose, so long as it brings no harm to anyone else. But until our settlements provide our basic needs, we can't expect others to accept our reality if it runs contrary to that fact. If you are growing food or contributing directly to supplying the basic needs of your community, then by all means, identify as a giraffe all day long. But if not, then you better get loose or get lost. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Sider. If you're in need of permaculture t-shirts, the official pimp gear of the Pimpcast, or remote permaculture consultation and design, head over to ericsider.com. And for more information on my permaculture community group, head over to permaculturefairoaks.org.
That's my dog, y'all. Oh, man, he says so much there, but wow, these days you can be anything. You can be a trans-testicle polar bear. Who knew? But no, I mean, everybody does have these different roles and everything. And like he said, he was you had this trad wife thing that was going on and it's still going on. I think I was late to the first time I ever heard the term. I'm like, man, what is that? I had no idea that, okay, everybody's just going out here playing dress up. And, you get the woman out there saying, woke up making a video out of this, and other women are buying this crap. Woke up this morning and she's acting like she's tired, but she's got on this Sally Homemaker polka dot dress. My kids wanted cornflakes, so I thought I'd make them cornflakes. I'm going to make it homemade. And I'm like, hold on. Okay, let's say you got up at 6 a.m. It took her 6 hours to make cornflakes. So there ain't 6 hours to make some cornflakes. And I'm supposed to believe this? Come on, woman. I didn't just step out of the cotton fields, man. Come on, try a little bit better. And then this other one, my husband really likes it. Yeah, whatever, man. It was making me sick. And then now you got a new different kind of trad wife thing going on. And I got to give it to the girl. I don't like that. Her hairdo drives me crazy. She looks like one of the Whoville people.
I saw.
Yeah, I saw this chick and I'm like, Gubba Homestead. First of all, the name is the dumbest name for a homestead I ever heard in my life. Gubba. And she's got this little ring in her head, some hairpiece that looks like something straight out of Dr. Seuss. And I'm like, okay, to her credit, I will give her, an A for originality, because she's been the first to cross over the trad wife thing with the conspiracy realm. Is she doing more good than bad? Maybe. And then she's always got this milk. I'm like, what? Why does everybody need a prop in these things? I don't know. Anyway, she does seem to put out at least solid, well-known, but solid information. I'll give her that. And I'll give her an A for originality. But yeah, I don't even know how I got on that, dude. I'm sitting here. Eric didn't even say anything about this stuff. And I'm up here.
He's talking about the opposite, Dad. He's talking about trannies. that's what he's talking about.
Trannies?
Yeah. Trans testicle polar bears and giraffes, you can identify as whatever you want as long as you're productive, basically.
Yeah, do what you want, get loose or get lost, like you said. At the end of the day, do what you got to do, man. But at the end of the day, if you're not hurting anybody, I don't have a problem. Yeah, I don't necessarily want you under my roof, but if you're not causing any problems, you're not hurting anybody, you definitely ain't hurting kids, you knock yourself out, man. You want to dress up and look in the mirror, get on some ballerina slippers and sing Good Ship Lollipop, do whatever you got to do. All right, y'all. Mycronic Silver, 10% off with promo code PERMA. That's some good stuff right there, y'all. I've been using it every single day for a certain thing that I'm going through right now. But anyway, I highly recommend it. That stuff, the shelf life is light years longer than any other, silver out there. And didn't Snoop have a song called The Mycronic? Or album?
The Chronic album, Dad, not My Chronic. The Chronic album.
My Chronic album.
Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. Actually, it was Dr. Dre's album, but Snoop Dogg was on it.
Okay, somebody says she was on Dr. Phil. Okay. Yeah, I wonder if she had that stupid hairdo up there on Dr. Phil as well, this Whoville hairdo. I don't even want to see it, but anyway.
It worked. She stuck out. You remembered her.
Yeah, I know somebody that hit this chick up to be having an appearance. She asked for like $30,000 to show up at a festival. I'm like, what? I don't know what kind of star power you think is in trad wife conspiracy women, but okay. You nice work if you can get it, I guess. All right, y'all. So I'm gonna quit messing around. I'm gonna quit with these trad wives and trans testicles. So 10 biggest lies about permaculture. I thought this would be a good one. I did 5, and of course, William did 5. And I don't know what is on his list. We do this stuff on purpose because we want it to be genuine. So we don't work on a list collectively. I just do some overflow in case, we double up on some things. So yeah, permaculture, y'all, is there's a lot of misunderstandings, misgivings. And honestly, there's a lot of people in this space that just because somebody calls themselves a permaculture designer, I'll give you an example. I don't even know how many times somebody over the years has called him or herself, mostly himself, an electrician. And what they mean by an electrician and what I mean by an electrician is two very different things. Now, you out there roping up a house halfway, doing whatever. To me, that's not the kind of, you're an electrician, you're a residential electrician, that's fine. But I'm an industrial and commercial electrician along with, I can do the residential. I don't do it, but I can do it, but it's not my, well, it doesn't pay as good as the other work. So just because a person calls themselves a permaculture designer doesn't necessarily mean, there's a whole lot of people out there that are black belts in jujitsu, but they're not all the same. There are people that are light years above the others. Well, it's the same thing in permaculture. There's a lot of people out there that go get a permaculture design certificate, and they have bastardized permaculture to the point where there are some well-known people in this space that will not even use the word because, and let's be honest here, a lot of people on the left have absolutely abused it. And so when me and William came out of the gates, first in the YouTube space and then in the podcast space, we didn't shy away from the word. We're like, okay, we're going to steal it back. There's a whole lot that you people get wrong, and I'm not letting you get away from it. And if anybody says, well, you're not permaculture or you're not doing that, well, we can have that debate and you will get dealt with. All right, so right off the bat, coming up with the biggest lies and misconception about permaculture right off the bat for me is permaculture is just gardening with a hippie flair. No, Karen, putting on a tie-dye shirt and on your tomato plant doesn't make it permaculture. And folks, I'm laughing because there are freaks out there doing this kind of stuff. Permaculture is engineering, it's ecology, it's deep thinking, it's energy accounting in a big way, and a whole lot of shovel work and a whole lot of physical work. So if you think that it's just gardening with a hippie flair, no, that's what these idiots have told you that it is. That's what they want you to believe it is, but it isn't.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's well, we'll kind of uncover more and more as we go. But the point that I was going to bring off that ties into the boomers for, I mean, there's a bunch of people that do it, but the boomers that keep spraying this glyphosate and stuff like that is one thing. After you get done with your like PDC, depending on where you did your PDC, you're going to be told like, all right, now we got to go convince everybody to start doing permaculture. And I remember being at Joel Salatin's and I asked him, I was like, how do I convince like the old timers to graze correctly? And he's like, don't let them die off, convince their kids. So we don't need to like convince everybody. We just need to convince the people that are getting into this system. If they want to hop on, then they'll hop on the bandwagon. If they don't, then they won't. But don't waste any time. Like scripture says, like try 3 times and then dust your feet off and let your peace return to you. Like try, give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, then move on to the next one. Don't keep banging your head up against the wall trying to convince this one person over and over, or this one demographic over and over again, when you can just be a little bit more productive and convince the people who are getting into this space.
Son, let me jump in there for just a quick second, because the boomers on your mom's side of the family, all of them are farmers, everybody on Michelle's side of the family. And it sure is funny that the boomer women all want to do the right thing in terms of grazing and raising the animals. It's the boomer men who will not do it.
Yeah.
So let me qualify that a little bit more, because all the women, I'm going to say this exactly the same way all over again. All of the women that are boomer, from the boomer generation, that are the wives of these guys that are kind of calling the shots out in the field, the women back there, it's not, these roles are, divided to a certain extent, but a lot of the women do a lot of the same work as the men.
It's all hands on deck back there.
Yeah,
it's everybody.
Everybody's doing the work. And in fact, in some ways, the women are doing a lot more because they're bearing the kids along the way, and the kids are out there with them, milking the cows, doing the whole 9 yards. So, yeah, it's the women who are wanting to do the right thing, and the guys that are so driven by doing it the way it's always been done. And because of it, they all struggle. They all struggle in a big way, and not realizing that the women know that there is a better way out there, but these guys are just reluctant. And a lot of it, I suspect, might have to do with a little bit of chauvinism. But I'm sorry, Sam, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had to put that in there.
No, that was I mean, you said it better than I did. That's my whole point. Is don't try to convince the people who refuse to change. Just convince the next generation. Try it 3 times and then dust your feet off and let your peace return to you.
That's what I'm talking about. My next one is permaculture. Here's a big conception out there and this is not so much among the people on the right, but the ones on the far left, and I'm picking on you folks a little bit, is permaculture means you don't have to work. Now, folks, I will tell you, like I talked recently in my latest video about my biggest fear. And my biggest fear is that my BS detector goes away and I'm okay with it. My biggest pet peeve that I hate above all else when it comes to human behavior is I can't stand laziness. If you are a lazy person, we ain't going to get along. I promise you that. And if you're one of those people that thinks you're going to stand in the background and hold a clipboard while I'm out here paying your light bill, got news for you, Jack. That ain't going to work either. So permaculture means you don't have to work. Whenever there's a group of people that are within this system, you always see it. And it doesn't even matter who the group is, whether it's among preparedness people or whatever. I'm always paying attention to who's working or, who's talking, who's running their mouth, who's actually getting something done. And you see a pattern. And it doesn't take long for it to merge because, especially if you see them in multiple projects, a lot of these people, these hippies, they really think, and I know a lot of this crowd is not going to think it this way, but I got to say it because it is one of the big lies in permaculture. They think that just because they're a storyteller, that they should somehow derive some sort of payment from the larger group. This is why collectives don't work. Exactly why they don't work. Because some guy calling himself a storyteller or I'm an artist, well, you better have some deep thoughts about planting them beets or digging them up, Jack, because you painting, doing some kind of Picasso out there ain't putting bread on the table, Jack. If you know what, do it in your spare time. Yeah, but permaculture means you don't have to work. And also the work you do should be efficient. That's another one of my pet peeves. I can't stand inefficiency. I can't stand inefficiency, folks. That's a big one for me. But I can't stand laziness even more. So for the people out there that think I'm just going to get into this, and there are a lot of them that get into these collectives and they think that they deserve a living just because you tell stories. Well, okay, everybody has a phone in their pocket, man. If I want to listen to a story, man, I can pull one up right there. So yeah, get to stepping.
Well, I know where he learned that from. He learned that from a permaculture design course where it talks about oral history and how you could tell stories in a story format and convey a lot of information. What he failed to understand was that they also did other things. There wasn't one. It was everybody telling stories. It was passed down from family to family, generation to generation. But they also grew food. They also did other things. They also had other tasks within the community. It wasn't just all right, here's our designated storyteller. Let's hope a coconut doesn't fall on them and wipe out all the stories. Everybody had access to these stories. It wasn't just one person. The next one I have is taking a permaculture design course makes you a master, and that you should be going out there and immediately teaching. A permaculture design course is just the beginning. That's the starting point. And then you still got to build you still have to build an understanding of how long these systems take, how much maintenance these systems require. You still need hands-on experience after your permaculture design course before you should even be consulting, let alone teaching anybody. I mean, there's a lot of permaculture design courses that are being taught by people who have no hands-on experience. They're pushing certain techniques that don't work in certain climates, and they don't know that because they haven't tried it, or they're just not very efficient. Like mandala gardens. Mandala gardens have a very specific purpose and very specific applications. So specific that I have not come across a property that justified a mandala garden. Not one. And I've done a lot of consultations. But you'll see permaculture design teachers teaching people that because they don't have the hands-on experience or having way too high of a expectation as far as let's say somebody has a conventional farm. The permaculture consultant comes out there or the teacher comes out there and is like, yeah, you need to do this, this, and this, and you need to do all of it immediately. They don't give them a transition period within the plan. All these things, this transition is expected to take 5 to 7 years. It's not an overnight thing because you have to retool. You have to come up with a whole new plan. You have to educate yourself on this new plan. And that really is what takes the longest is the education, both books and hands-on education. So yeah, just because you take a permaculture design course does not mean that you become a master or that you should be teaching or that you should even be immediately consulting. If anything, a good way to get experience is do it yourself, and if at all possible. And if you don't have land, see if you can borrow somebody else's land. Say, hey, I want to grow food on that land. Get the experience. Go intern at some farm if you want to, or do consultations for free. Just go to people you know who are growing food and being like, hey, do you mind if we do, like, when my buddy comes to town, he's wanting to become a permaculture designer. We're going to do a mock consultation while he's out there. He's been with me on a couple of consultations. And we're going to do a mock consultation for the demonstration site. I'm going to give him a list, just like I receive. I'm going to give him a list of what I, like, hypothetically want to be done on this property, and he's going to give me a consultation in return. That's an awesome way to practice, is just do free consultations for people. Jeff Lawton, when I was there, he was telling us about this one dude who did 50 consultations in like 3 months for $50 a piece. It was basically just enough to pay his gas to and from the place. And he was doing free consultations all over and he was actually in the United States. And he was the first one, to Jeff Lawton's knowledge, that was actually working on a permaculture golf course too.
Man, there's so many great comments in this chat, man. I wish I would have spent more time, man. I'm going to go to some of them here and then I'll jump back on my list. Mary Jane was saying, be careful with the tanning beds. My niece ended up with melanoma caused by said beds. I would ask your niece if she was wearing eye protection. Now, granted, there is no alternative, I mean, outside the sun. But when it's as bad as it is, I would first of all check and see if there's any UV on there. Folks, this is why
I think they are UV. I think they are UV.
I think they are, but the worst thing you can do is if your skin is getting one signal and your eyes are telling it another, you are creating chaos in the system. So find out. I mean, I'm sure there's a number of other factors out there, but this is why you should never wear sunglasses ever. I'm wearing blue light blockers because there's a bunch of blue light in here, but blue light is gone from nature at about noon, at least this time of year. Another one says, one more quarter. Obese man watching sports ball. Boy, I love this comment. Pathetic beta is wearing a shirt with another man's name on it.
Gay.
Yeah. I for the life of me, man, I am just like, you're and then they will sit here. This is what would always drive me crazy back when I was working in Kansas City, is that you let their team lose, and man, Monday is a wreck. They were a complete wreck for Monday, maybe even in the Wednesday. I mean, we did this. We didn't do nothing. You ain't on the team, Jack. So anyway, yes. Hey, Alabama's talking about the the women are out there doing the research and then the guys blow them off. That's true. And then my man, Steve, I think he sums up permaculture in a great way right here. Says, I work like a Hebrew slave for the first 12 years. I still work, but as the system matures, I get more yield. He could sum up the entire thing right there.
Yeah, there's all my points, Steve.
There you go. Thanks, Steve. Everybody go home. Steve did the show for everybody. But I mean, that's it in a nutshell. That's really how it works. You put in the work up front, you're paying it forward to your future self. That's how you're doing it. I mean, yeah, you're busting your butt at first, and then you get the rewards. You get to reap them later on. All right, so I'm going to get back to mine. Permaculture is anti-animal. And this is said by the people out there who are the vegan permaculturists. I'll let William go down that rabbit hole here in a minute, but okay, you ever looked in nature? At every single level, where on the macro and micro, there's always something eating something else. Every single level, all the way up. I don't care if you're in the African savanna, and I don't care if you're down in the soil. Okay, you got bacteria, fungi, nematodes. Okay, bacteria and fungi are being eaten all the time by everything above them, getting excreted out. And then, the same thing's happening to the things higher in the chain, just like you would see in the African savanna. So no, permaculture is not anti-animal. We just got people out there that are anti-common sense. There is no part. If you want to really make a system sing, I could do it without animal inputs. Son, what's going to happen to that same system if all of a sudden I put animals in there? Let's say it's an orchard and I'm growing it. I don't have any animals, but let's say I go out there and I run some sheep and let's say some turkeys, some ducks and chickens. What happens to that system when I incorporate animals in it?
It blows up, because now you're creating an ecosystem. Like having And I will say some of these vegans aren't against like it depends on what kind of sickness you're dealing with. It depends on like what kind of vegan you're dealing with. I've met some awesome vegans that were like, yeah, I keep animals because like, animals with a system without the animals is a sick system. Like they're able to acknowledge that they just personally don't eat animals, or vegans, vegetarians, whatever it may be. They just personally don't eat it. That's fine. That's all personal choice, but you can't subtract your animals from an ecosystem. That's all what we're trying to replicate is like your garden, your orchard, your grazing pastures, your silvopasture, your food forest. All of those are ecosystems, and you can boost a ton of abundance just by incorporating and managing animal systems within that. Like your compost, like I have a video out talking about how to make a 2-ingredient compost. It's better than what you can buy at the store, but a 3-ingredient compost is far better than a 2-ingredient compost, just using that manure aspect within your compost. If nothing else, even if you are vegan, you should have animals for no other reason than just the manure. Also, if you're learning permaculture from somebody who's a vegan, chances are they're probably in Costa Rica, where you can have year-round perennial production. Like there's something constantly fruiting in Costa Rica. There's something constantly fruiting in the Amazon, but you're also riding the coattails of the previous indigenous cultures that were living there that built the doggone food forest.
Yeah, but at the same time, like Mark Sisson said years ago, find me one vegan tribe that isn't extinct. You ain't gonna find it. It is the most unnatural. Your body was never made to be that way, and they're eating more synthetic garbage than anybody else out there. So from a health standpoint, if you can go that route, you do whatever you got to do. But man, no, that's not the way I'm gonna roll. But go back to you, son.
The next one I had was no outside inputs. Like there's some pretty extreme like permaculture people that talk about like using absolutely no outside inputs. I mean, I'll just go ahead and say it. Like Paul Wheaton, he's an example of using like absolutely zero outside inputs. And look at like the state of his. I mean, he's had that place over 20 years or something like that. And the most you can show for it is a rocket stove and like a 1/2 done wafati. Like use the outside input. There's nothing wrong with using outside inputs. The issue with outside inputs is like, are you stuck using outside inputs? Using outside inputs to build a system, to build a property, perfectly acceptable. Using outside energy inputs as well, as like as far as the grid for electricity, the grid for water. If you have access to the grid and you are on raw land, use the grid to get you off the grid. Like Earthship Biotecture is an example of people that used off-grid means to build an off-grid, civilization over there. And the only reason they did that was because they didn't have access to the grid. Taos was not about to bring utilities out there for a couple of people building houses with tires. So they had to use off-grid means to build it off-grid. Like it wasn't by choice. Like it wasn't like something that if I asked Michael Reynolds said it while I was there, is like, if we had access to the grid, we would have used the grid to build an off-grid society. So there's nothing wrong with like outside inputs. And especially once you have, like saying no to outside inputs is also saying no to any sort of community. Because if you have a neighbor who grows something that you don't grow or produces compost or something like that, something that you don't do, no outside inputs means you can't trade with that person. You can't barter with that person. So no, it's just no dumb outside inputs. Try to limit yourself from like dumb outside inputs.
Yeah, I'm with that. My next one is permaculture doesn't make money. And you know what? That's actually true. You know why? Because a lot of the people that are bigger, it is somehow a bad thing to live beyond the poverty level for a lot of people that are in this space. That if you're not out there eking out an existence, that somehow you're a sellout. Well, you call me whatever, but you know what? When we line up brain pans and we line up who's producing food, you know what? We produce the kind of abundance where I got to give away pigs. Gave away 3 of them. Gave away all my meat chickens. Why? Because I got 8 freezers that are plumb full and I can't fit another thing in them. I'm about to process a couple of sheep day after tomorrow. And I can't eat, I got to give them away because I can't even, I just gave away 2 more. So if you do it right, there's so much abundance it's bursting like in Psalm 23, my cup runneth over. I mean, it really does if you do it right. And it didn't even cost you anything to have this extra abundance. But people are saying permaculture doesn't make money. Well, how much money do you think I'm saving right now when we got record inflation right now, but I don't have to go to the store except for toilet paper and aluminum foil? I mean, you get the point. I mean, we go for other things, but by and large, I am eating everything local to me, especially with the latest thing that I'm doing right now, where I'm eating nothing that's not in my zip code, except for the salt. Obviously, we're not producing salt in Western North Carolina, but everything, I got all these freezers full of meat. Well, you're telling me I don't need, well, do I need to make that money if I'm not going out here spending, I don't even know what kind of meat that is half the time in these stores. And I'm a butcher. When I say I don't know what it is, it shouldn't be that red. Meat that's been hung in a locker long enough will not be that red. Is that red because they just processed it, hung it up there for a week, and they just put it on the shelf and it's bleeding out all over the package? That's why they got those little, those little diapers underneath everything in the meat section. Well, and as far as making a living out of it, well, it all depends on how you scale it. There's so many people in this space that think it's a high crime just to be able to put bread on the table. If you're not living in some freaking pup tent, that you're some kind of sellout. Bring it any day of the week. You bring your productivity out there and put it out there in front of me. I'll put mine in front of you, and I will promise you about 10 times out of 10, we're not going to be in the same place. And as far as not making money, well, there's other ways you can use it. I mean, permaculture is a business model, not a freaking charity, like a lot of people think. There's nothing wrong with making a living out of it. And so many people think, they're afraid. I know people that do YouTube that are afraid to tell people that they actually make a living because they're worried that somebody's going to think, oh man, you're not living the life. I'm going to unsubscribe. I'm dead serious. I know folks like that. And I mean, nobody has a problem with Walmart making money, but you got a problem with your neighbor making it. Come on. Everybody's got put bread on the table one way or the other.
It's an exchange of energy. Like in exchange for you not having to do a particular thing, you give me currency. It doesn't have to be like fiat currency. It can be whatever kind of currency. You give me the currency, and in exchange, you saved yourself. Like you don't have to do the thing that I'm providing you for or providing you with. It's just an energy exchange. And without that energy exchange, you don't have a sustainable system. Like you have a depleting system. So if you look at it as far as energy goes, you realize like it has to go this way. Not saying you can't do charity or anything like that. We should definitely be doing charity, especially with the abundance and everything. But like, don't get mad that somebody's making an income or a living off of this, especially if it's honest. That just doesn't make any sense. So all homesteads or all properties have to have swales. That is a lie, and I'm not really entirely sure where that came from. There's a lot of times, there's a lot of times where like swales are not the most efficient way to store water. They're really good at moving water. They're really good at soaking water back into the landscape. But if you don't intend, let's say you have a pasture and you don't really intend on growing trees, swales don't make any sense. And even if you do have pasture, and even if you do intend on growing trees, swales still might not make sense. Swales without trees is half of a system. You have to have trees within a swale in order for it to function to its full extent. But like, you don't have to have swales on your property. There's a lot of people that I've done consultations for that are asking like, all right, where did the swales go? It's like, well, first we got to like assess the property and see if swales even make sense. Are swales going to cut off access for you? That's a reason to not do swales. Are you even wanting to grow trees? If not, then that's a reason to not do swales. If you have other locations that are better suited for tree production, let's go with that and then save some of this other area for like not swales. Because wherever I have a swale, I can't bring animals over that hump. I can't drive over that hump. I'm not even supposed to be walking over the hump of the swale. So yeah, swales, not everybody needs swales. They are cool, and some people just want that earthwork on their property, but it doesn't always make sense. And it doesn't mean you're not doing permaculture if you don't do swales on your property.
Keyline may work better for you. I mean, It may not be a swale. I mean, yeah, if you want to capture some of that rainfall, swales may not be the best dog to the hunt. I mean, it could be It could be a keyline system. There's a number of different ways in which you can get to the same place. But like William said, if you're not going to grow trees and stuff in there, maybe it doesn't make sense for you. For me, I want every bit of passive food production I can possibly get. So if I can put it out there, yeah, I love trees. I love working with trees. I love pruning trees. I love everything they do for us and everything they do for the animals. And honestly, it's that passive food production that, going back to my prepper roots or preparedness roots, I hate saying anything that ends in ER. They managed to turn everything that ends in ER to a pejorative. But anyway, I like being able to stack so many different functions into a place that it'll make your head spin. But that's my thing. Okay, so final one I have here is I can't even, I don't remember who said it, but they said, permaculture is just too complicated for somebody starting out. It's too complicated for beginners. Well, you learned how to use a smartphone, didn't you? Permaculture is easier, and the instructions aren't written to spy on you, unlike your phone. So no, I mean, it's not that complicated for beginners. The place where it feels complicated, or it can be, and there's a bunch of different ways, but I'm just going to spitball one of them right now, is that when you first come out of a permaculture design certificate or a class, and this is why I'm a big fan of not doing them all at once, because it's like drinking from a fire hose. The courses that William and I initially did, you would go one weekend a month. And I think that's perfect because it gives you time to digest everything before you have to go back. I can't even imagine sitting there day after day after day trying to take all this in. There's no way you're going to be able to process it all. So I think it's a mistake. I think with my understanding now, I think it's a mistake to try to do it all in one session. I mean, over day after day after day. I just don't know how anybody can possibly keep up with that 8 hours of instruction every single day. So no, it isn't, it's not complicated. It's not too complicated for beginners. It's just people get through it and they're like, okay, now where do I start? And there's just a lot of stuff written out. I mean, if you got to do it, if you can do it over the series of weeks or months or whatever like that, that's the way I would prefer to do it. You're just getting overwhelmed right out of the gates because you may not know what it is you don't know. And you're just going to have to be patient with yourself as well. And don't go out there trying to save the world. I mean, there's a whole lot of people that get done with the PDC and they want to go out there and tell Farmer John, who's been doing this for 50 years, exactly how he ought to be running his farm. Yeah, you may have the backbone, but you got the right ta-ta, but the wrong ho-ho. So you just got to take your time.
What does that even mean?
It's a Louisiana expression, son.
Okay. All right. So another lie is that food forests will save and feed the world. That's not necessarily the case. Food forests aren't as high yielding as a lot of people think. A lot of people, whenever they think of a food forest, they think like, all right, I got all these fruit trees in one spot, and all I have to do is go out there and pick the fruit trees, and that's it. Once I plant them, once I maintain them for a little bit, then all I have to do is harvest. That's not the case. There's still maintenance involved. And also a food forest system is going to be lower yielding than an orchard system. Because it's so densely planted, is it going to be less maintenance on you? Yes. But if you're trying to get maximum production out of a particular system, a food forest system isn't really the way to go. Because you're shading out a lot of opportunities below the other 7 layers of a forest. Okay, look at it this way. The edge of the forest is way higher yielding than the center of the forest. How much, if you do an orchard, like what you guys have is the driveway orchard, that's going to be higher yielding than the center of that food forest that you have down at the bottom, because you've increased the edge of a particular system. Anytime you increase the edge, you increase the yield because you have the interaction between two or three different media. Food forests aren't going to, can they be good passive supplementary places to harvest food? Absolutely. But is it going to be the backbone that's going to save the entire world? Absolutely not. And also, given a different design, I can yield more on the same footprint doing a different system on the same footprint of a food forest. I can have a higher yield. I just have to pay it more attention. So this is where like the classic permaculture answer, it depends, always comes into play. It's like, is a food forest the right way to go? Well, it depends. Like, how much time can you dedicate to a system per week? Like, what are your physical limitations? If you can't dedicate much time and your physical limitations are low, then the food forest might be the way to go. But if you do have the opportunity, let's say one of you is like, you're married, one of you is staying at home, one of you is going out to work. Well, the person that's staying at home has the time to dedicate to a particular system a lot more. They can work that like a full-time job. Then I would suggest doing a different system, something that's going to yield more in that particular square footage versus a food forest. So I think Curtis Stone came out with a video like years ago talking about some of that, like the food forests and stuff like that. The food forests are amazing. They're definitely something that we should focus more on than what we currently do, but it's not the end all be all for like food production. Also, food forests, not all animals are going to benefit well within a food forest. Like cows will destroy a food forest, but I can change and I can increase the edge and I can graze cows in between silvopasture or like a keyline design, or like silvopasture is basically just like an orchard row and then pasture and then an orchard row and then pasture, given that the kind of silvopasture that we do. But the system, your choice on the system or the system that you go with depends on the variables given. Your land, how much time you can dedicate to that system. Do you have any other laborers, things like that? So yeah, perennial or food forests are not going to be what saves the world or feeds the world. They can be supplementary though.
No, it can make sense. Like, right here, we got Blessed 360 in the house from Costa Rica. I mean, in a system like that, that's where a lot of people tend to forget about the fact that in certain places in the tropics, where they got a more laid back kind of society down there. Why? Because food comes quite easily in certain places. Where had a friend in Puerto Rico says, man, just walk out in the woods, walk out in the jungle, bam, I come back, we got an armful of, food. And then places like Costa Rica, it's another example too. Although I'm hearing that, a lot of it's becoming industrialized and that they're doing a lot of spraying down there. I mean, I don't know this personally, but just what some folks have told me. Food forest in a place like that probably makes perfect sense because it's kind of one giant food forest, but it may not make sense for you in New York. So, and like William said, if you have the time to invest, I don't mind putting in the work. It's just right now I'm struggling to have the bandwidth to do everything that I need to do. And then also the limitations of, unnatural weather that's occurring all throughout right now. I mean, it's just crazy stuff that's going on and everybody's dealing with it whether you choose to see it or not, everybody's dealing with it in some capacity or another. All right, son, anything else to add?
I mean, I think Steve Hall really said it all. He said it all earlier.
Yeah, like Steve said, man, you put in the work now so that, later on you're reaping it, especially as you age. I mean, these things they pay dividends in a big way, but they don't necessarily do it overnight. But you can scale these things to make them produce where you can get you get something maybe the first year, then you get a little bit more the second. And as you go on and on and on and on, then you may decide, that tree over there isn't really doing really wonderfully. Let me just overgraft it and do something else with that apple, or let me try something else here. It's just going to be an experiment all the way around. But there is folks, we could have made honestly a 2-hour show on all the fallacies concerning permaculture. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2 in the future. All right, y'all. I want to thank everybody in the chat, and I want to thank everybody for all the wonderful things out there that you folks are doing for each other. And I really, especially in these times right now, y'all, things are crazy. I mean, we're seeing a lot of weird. I'm going a little bit off script here, but we're never on script here. But just stay especially alert to the things that are going on in this world right now. Europe really needs war in a big way. They need it in a big way. So just stay alert to all the things that are going on right now, because the powers that shouldn't be don't really care about any of. If they cared about anybody in this audience right now, would they be spraying this junk, this fly ash, and all the other crap they're putting out there, barium, aluminum, you name it. It doesn't happen in the environment naturally the way they're doing it. if they cared at all about you, would they be dumping this stuff over all of us right now? So get your house in order. Don't live in fear. Stay on your knees and thank the good Lord for all the wonderful things he's given us. But folks, if we're going to maintain any of what we have right now in this crazy country, we're going to have to fight back, and in a big way. All right, y'all. Until next time, stay alert.
Stay alive.
The knowledge rings with roots that run deep. Wisdom from Saul and permaculture dreams. Let the ideas unfold. I'm grooving with the truth. Feeling nature's groove. We got the answers. All we need to do. Listen to the earth. They got us through. Let's see the change. Watch the world spin. From the smallest sprout to harmony begin. In the cycle of life, where the magic's alive. To the